Um, I am a little under the weather, so if I sound a little nasal or if I have to sneeze between chatting, forgive me in advance. Uh, so I want to take us through this journey on what it's like to take a leap from the 9 to 5, or what many of us call the rat race, and into this fantasy world of entrepreneurship. And there's so many people who, right now, we're in a climate, an economic climate that almost requires you to have a full-time job as well as some type of side hustle. And there are so many people who are pursuing their side hustle, whether it be baking cupcakes or planning events or being cooking, catering. There's so many different things
nine to five, or what many
that
of us
people
call
are
the rat race,
engaging in right now to supplement their income. And it's not just a supplement of their income, but it's also really, for most people, where their passion lies. It's something that they really, really want to do, or they're really, really good at, or they really, really like, and they're just not sure if they can pursue that thing full time. And how will we know if it's that thing we're supposed to pursue full time unless we actually go full time? So I just want to talk a little bit tonight about how I made the decision to go from my 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneurship. And I'll start you at the beginning, at how long I battled with this decision, or at what point did I know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I think for some people, this happens different for everyone. Some people know that they're destined to be an entrepreneur. Other people, it falls into their lap by happenstance. Other people are thrown into it. And for me, it didn't happen that way. I took the traditional road of, you go to college and then you go to graduate school and then you climb the career ladder. And I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. Yay. And I went to college and I got a bachelor's in economics and film production. And then I didn't pursue a career in film or economics. I ended up in real estate. And that was back in 2004. And I did that. I was working at that time for a startup. The woman that I worked for, she was a real estate developer, and I was her very first employee. And so you can only imagine what this experience is like. I'm fresh out of college. She's fresh into her new business. And we were like Bonnie and Clyde, building this company from literally the ground up. I mean, all she had before me were interns. She never had a full-time employee. So from then, I guess my interest in entrepreneurship was piqued. And it's a little different from her. She wasn't a bootstrapper. She came from a very successful family. She was able to uh, generate or raise a lot of money before she started her business. And actually within the first 2 years of starting her business, because she was well connected, and it wasn't the typical bootstrapping business. And I worked for her for 3 years and then decided I was going to go to graduate school. And I went to graduate school for real estate. And from there, I said, well, what do I want to do now? I worked for the small startup. Now I want to go to a huge corporation. And I ended up working for a consulting firm, the Fortune 500, that only worked with Fortune 500 companies. And I did that for a year. And then I said, oh my gosh, I want to be vice president of like CB Richard Ellis. Like, I was totally convinced I was going to be this first female senior VP in real estate or asset management. And then I got hired to do real estate at Columbia University in New York. And I was like, oh my God, this is the biggest job of my career. No one at my age and experience level gets this type of opportunity. I was 27, and it was working on a $600 million project. Actually, when I started, I think it was a $400 million project, and then it became a $500 million project. But it was a huge, huge deal. And I was like, man, I'm 27. This is going to be the biggest job of my career. And from here, I'm going to be able to step into that senior VP role at CBRE or Goldman Real Estate or wherever I want to go after that. And so I was excited. And 1 year into this job, I was like, is this it? Is this all I get to do? Where's the excitement? Where's the creativity? Where is all of the cool, amazing things I thought I was going to be doing? I do a lot of paperwork and I go to a lot of meetings. Like, what's going on? This is what's happening. And I slowly felt, coming from someone who had worked for a startup, so you had to be on your toes, on your feet all the time, thinking, jumping into fires, fixing situations, thinking of new ways to do things because it had never been done before. And going from that, and then also coming from a film and television background, which is all about creativity and new ideas and the big idea, I felt like my creativity was being sucked out of me and oozing down my ears. So after 1 year, I said, oh my God, maybe this whole senior VP thing is not for me. Maybe working for a huge corporation is not for me. Maybe I need to go back to the startup world. And from there, I said, well, you know what? Maybe I need to be the startup. Maybe I need to be the company. Maybe I need to be the person working on building something, because at the end of the day, if you work for someone else, you're still helping them build their dream and not your dream. So what was I going to do? And what was I good at? So I sat down and I said, well, what are my talents? And I'm like, man, I can't sing. I'm not a professional dancer. What talents do I have? And I sat down and I said, you know what? I'm a really good writer. And by then I had already started writing. I've been writing. I've been writing for forever. I've gotten awards for writing back in middle school, high school, published when I was in high school. And I said, well, this whole writing thing's been pretty cool. And so I started really not even a blog, because blogs didn't exist back then in the way that they do now. I was sort of like on Facebook writing these notes, and they were going pretty well. And I was always writing about relationships. And I said, oh, I kind of like this writing thing. And I was doing it every day and posting a new note every day. And people would come from all over to write comments and debate with me. And it was pretty cool. And so I said, this whole writing thing, I think I want to be a writer. And I said, but writers don't make any money. What am I going to do? How am I going to make money as a writer? Writers don't make money. And I said, let's think of creative ways. What is the creative way that I could do this and make it fun for me and also make it profitable? And so the other thing that I had that I really liked to do was talk, as you can see right now. And I said, well, if I'm going to talk, who am I going to talk to? And who do I want to try to help? And I wanted to help young girls. So that's how we started Pretty Well Inc. I had two friends at that time who I said, I want to try this whole nonprofit thing. And they were like, yeah, do it. And I went to a community, like Brooklyn Law School, and they helped me form my nonprofit for free at their law clinic. And I started doing speaking events at schools, at high schools. I had a friend who I went to college with who said, hey, come with me. I'm going to speak at my school, my high school. And I said, okay. And by the end of the session, the girls that I was speaking to went to their principal and asked if they could have me come and do a club in the school. And so I said yes, and the principal said yes, and I ended up doing a speaking tour mentorship program slash girls club for like 3 months. And boom, my career as a speaker was born just off of that. Other people started hearing about me speaking to young girls, and they started hiring me to come speak to their youth groups. Then colleges started contacting me to come speak to their college students. Then I got booked to do a commencement speech at a high school in Brooklyn. And so it just continued to develop and develop and develop. So how I finally made the decision, because all of this time I'm still working at my job. So I'm working my day job because that's how the majority of my bills got paid. But then I'm sort of moonlighting in this writing slash speaker world. And I wasn't certified as a speaker, and I wasn't certified as a writer. I hadn't put out a book yet or anything of that sort. I was still just sort of dabbling in it and seeing where it could go while still working. And there's one thing I will tell you is when you're pursuing a passion, if you have, even if it's a full-time job, which will I now call a distraction, you can never fulfill your full destiny of your passion when you have distractions in your way. So how I finally came to make the decision. So I stayed in my job for another 6 years, right? I stayed there from 2008 until 2014, 2015, honestly. And it took something so drastic to happen. I've had 2 children since 2008. And with each child, I went on maternity leave and said, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to pursue my passion full time. I'm going to pursue writing and speaking full time. And both times I chickened out and went back to work. And in 2013, I said, okay, at least if I'm going to go back to work, I'm going to put more time into this writing and speaking thing. I'm only going to go back to work 4 days a week. And I talked to my boss about it, and she agreed to only coming into the office 4 days a week, but the 5th day I had to work from home. And so on my 5th day of working from home, I would push all my work to the morning so that I could get it done and spend the rest of the afternoon writing. Or in the reverse. So I would spend all morning writing, and then I would push all my work to the afternoon so that I could still do both, because at least I was home. And then in the summer of 2014, something personal happened to me that was pretty drastic, and it's really what pushed me over the edge to make the decision to pursue my passion full time. And it doesn't happen like this for everybody. Other people plan and prepare, and they do a whole bunch of other steps. But for me, I'm a strong believer that, we make plans, God laughs at our plans. We want to do one thing, and he set something else for us to happen. And I was deciding that I was going to leave my job in 2016. I wanted to leave my job before I turned 36. And I said on April 4th, 2016 will be the last day I am 35. So I'm giving myself until then to get the guts to leave. And in August of 2014, I found that I was expecting what would have been my 5th child. And within 2 weeks, I lost that child, and I was already 3 months along. And it was the most devastating thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And I basically decided then that life waits for no person. You can make whatever plans you want. That does not matter. It doesn't mean that you will have the time to get there. It doesn't mean that life will wait for you. It doesn't mean that by then you'll have the courage or the guts. It doesn't mean that anything is guaranteed. And at that point, that was the decision. That was the turning point for me to say, okay, because in my mind, I was already planning. All right, great. I'm expecting. Great. I'm 3 months along. Perfect. This child will be born in April 2015. Great. I'll be on maternity leave until July. I'm going to go back to work. Here's what I'm going to do. Da, 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 da. I had already planned out my life, and everything got snatched away. So I said, you know what? If I was planning, excuse me, to do this after these events, and now all of those events have now been snatched away, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? And I didn't have an answer. I did not have an answer. So I stayed home from work probably for almost a month. And within, I think, the first week, I went back to work. I went to my boss and I said, listen, I'm going to be leaving at the end of the year. And I decided that December 2014 was going to be the time that I leave and actually pursue what it is that I'm really interested in addition to spending more time with my kids who will grow up before I know it. So what did I do after I made that decision? Since you know now how long it took me to make the decision, 5 to 6 years, right, to actually get the guts to actually do it. What actually was the turning point that made me make the decision? And once the decision was made, what did I do, right? What did I have to put in place to really be ready? And there are a lot of things that people think about when they decide to leap from their 9 to 5, which is guaranteed money, into entrepreneurship, which is very cloudy. I'm not so sure how this is going to work. I hope I can pay my bills money. And I read a book a long time ago by Melinda Emerson, the small biz lady, who said 12 months to prepare for your job, for your leap from 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. And her biggest thing was financially, you want to be prepared. And so since I only gave myself August, September, October, November, December, 4 months to do this, I had to have things in place. And God is so good because I was already prepared, technically, without having consciously prepared for this actual moment. So everyone says when you leave your job, you should have at least 6 to 9 months, some people even say 1 year worth of living expenses saved. Well, in 2010, I had started saving ridiculous amounts of money just because, just because I wanted to buy a house, just because I wanted to have it, just because I could, just because. So when I decided I was going to leave my job, I had $90,000 in the bank. I wasn't really worried about leaving my job. I was good. I didn't have to say, oh my God, I need a year's worth of expenses because I already had it. I had to break it to my family. Listen, mommy's gonna not be working. I had to break it to my husband. My husband was totally on board, 100% supportive. Now, how did I end up with all this money? And it's something that you hear me say all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. I invested my money. I didn't just save it in a savings account. I didn't just save it under my mattress. I started investing my money in 2010, really 2009, 2010, at the bottom of the market, the bottom. I was buying stocks for like 50 cents and they doubled and tripled within the last 3 years, right? I tell everyone my Bank of America story. I bought Bank of America stock when it was $4.90. Now it's like 15. Literally a tripled. And I did that repeatedly for 3 or 4 years. And it grew exponentially. So I will always stick by my story of investing. And so we only had to do minor things to prepare. We had to just figure out what our schedules were going to be, whether or not we're going to take our little one out of daycare, small things that we had to think about, not really financial. My biggest thing was figuring out what was I going to do? And I knew I was going to write. I was going to write about finance. I was going to write about fashion. I was going to write and just write and just write. I have 2 book projects that I've started years ago that I'm finally going to finish and push out. And that's where I am. And I'm going to continue to speak. And I'm always speaking. I always have speaking engagements lined up. And so literally the difference between where I was when I was working 9 to 5 and now that I've actually left my job, which happened January 15th, 2015. So it hasn't even been 2 months. Even within these last 6 or 7 weeks, I've had the availability and flexibility to be available for things that are in line with my destiny. And that is a big, big deal, because if you're working 9 to 5, you are committed to a schedule from someone else. And when you are committed to a schedule for someone else, that means if an opportunity presents itself, you may not necessarily be available to take the opportunity. So I'll give you a perfect example. I left my job January 15th. 2 weeks later, February 1st, I get a phone call. Hey, can you cover one event for me at Fashion Week? Fashion Week is something that I've wanted to do for forever. I've wanted to write about Fashion Week. I wanted to go to shows. My goal was to go to one show. I got the invite for one show. Great. Goal accomplished. By the time Fashion Week ended on February 20th, I had attended 22 shows and covered 22 shows. I went to every single day of Fashion Week for 8 days straight. If I was still working, that would not have even been a possibility nor an option for me to take, right? But because I had already made a decision to pursue what my passion is, I was able to take the opportunity when it presented itself and now have my recaps of Fashion Week featured on over 50 websites through Interactive One, Radio One, Hello Beautiful, 93.9. They're all over the place now. That is because I made this decision. So what I want to embark on all of you guys tonight is there is so much waiting for you beyond your comfort zone. There is so much waiting after you make the decision. Making the decision is the hardest part. Making the leap is the second hardest. Walking in your destiny is the easy part because doors just begin to open. And if you guys believe in God, I believe in God. I talk about God all the time. I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but this is something that you all need to clearly understand. God is 125% real, and he moves in ways that are unbelievable. He will blow your mind. He blows my mind all the time, all the time. And so what I do all the time is I pray. I pray and I ask for direction. What should I do? How should I handle this? Should I, even with leaving my job, listen, I'm feeling emotional about the fact that I lost this child. What should I do? Does this mean it's time? And I wait for answers. Yes, it's time. No, it's not time. And the answers come. You receive signs and confirmations from everywhere. You just have to be open and able to receive it. So what I want to really embark on all and impart on all of you today is really sit down, think about what you really, really want out of life. Is it that you want to work this 9 to 5? Or is there a passion that you're really, really eager to see what's possible when you take it from a hobby to a career? Because we all have a career, right? You work for MTA and you're a bus driver. That's your career. That's your professional career. But if you bake cookies on the side, a lot of people will consider that your hobby. What would happen if you let them switch places? Or if you eliminated one altogether and you said, listen, I want to bake cookies, like baking cookies is my professional career. The doors that will open for you, the opportunities that you'll be able to step into, you can't even fathom them now because you're not there yet. The opportunities that will present themselves for you to walk through are not able to be comprehended until you actually do it. And then, if that makes sense, you can't imagine the amount of opportunities that are going to step into your life until you actually get the guts to make the leap. And it's really about sitting down, making a choice, ironing out your options. I have this career here, which is my 9 to 5. I have this passion that I want to pursue. Which one do I feel more committed to? Which one do I feel more excited about? Which one makes me happy? Which one would I really be okay with doing for free? That's the real question. If I'm willing to write for free, I wrote for free for years, just because I wanted to. I spoke for free for years, just because I wanted to, because I wanted to get better, because I wanted to have more experience, because I wanted to talk to more people, because I wanted to help more kids. Which are the ones that you would be willing to do for free? You make a list. If you were like me and not sure, what is my entrepreneurial life going to look like? And I sat there and I made a list. Okay, I want to write and I want to speak. Those are my 2 things I want to do. Great. You have to figure out what that thing is. What's the thing that gives you the fire? What's that thing that you would be willing to do for free? And then you pursue that with everything you have. With everything you have. And once you start to do it enough, you'll realize, bless me, you'll realize that there are ways, you'll find ways to make it profitable. You will find ways. People will come to you and want to engage in service with you and are going to ask you, so how much do you charge for this? Even if you never charged anybody before. And then you're going to have to make a decision. Is this a hobby or is this a career? Because if it's a career, I need to set a price. And then from there, you just continue to push. You continue to push. But the biggest thing to make the leap from 9 to 5 to entrepreneur is believing that you can. Believing that it's something out there worth more than whatever amount of money you're being paid at your job. I left a 6-figure job to pursue my passion as a writer and a speaker. And I left it without crying. Most people would never, in their wildest dreams, leave a 6-figure job for something that is unknown. But when you believe in something, when you believe in yourself, when you are confident about your ability, when you are confident about your talent, when you know that it's only you standing in the way of you getting to the next level, you're not, nothing is going to stand in your way. No dollar amount can hold you. I used to call it my golden handcuffs. And freeing myself from golden handcuffs was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And so I hope you all are inspired, motivated, encouraged to get the guts, decide what your passion is, and eventually make that leap from 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneur. Thank you. If you guys have questions, I would love to take questions.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing with us your journey. Because many times when we get to the top, some people don't remember where they came from. And some people pretend have never had it, gone through any challenges in their life. But you have been very transparent in giving us a glimpse of what your life was before you became who you are today. And so we appreciate you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and share with us tonight. I'm going to open up for question and answers. If you have Q&A session started, please press *6 and unmuted. We'll be happy to answer your questions, or if she said something that inspired you tonight, please feel free to make a comment. Again, you press *6. Let me check and see if I have received any messages from social media.
Okay.